My passion is like primary prevention, helping people to actually get better. You've lost so much, you've won so much, where you become numb to like the profit and losses. I wanted more of a method where I could kind of gain this skill of knowing like when I should sell a certain stock, when I should sell a certain put option. You put the hours in, and once you're able to figure it out, then, you know, just like real estate, you can consistently make money.
Welcome to another episode of Investing RN. We have John Kim here, a nurse practitioner working in Illinois, doing a little bit of investing, or we'll get into that. Maybe it's a lot of bit of investing, but doing some investing, doing some, a lot of social media stuff. If you don't follow him, you should do that. On Instagram is where I found you, but it sounds like you're kind of everywhere. But yeah, welcome, John. Thanks for showing up today.
Thank you. It's a privilege.
Yeah, so let's start this podcast by talking about your nursing journey, because we like to see where your background and what brought you into nursing and what made you want to become a nurse practitioner.
Yeah, I'll keep it short. I think I was in business first at the University of Missouri, and then I watched, I think it was A Walk to Remember, and there's that physician and how he saved her from, you know, that whole story. And I think that just motivated me. Like, I wanted to do something with greater purpose in my life. And so I think I started off with physical therapy, and then I realized more so that nursing was a better fit for me. And during that time, not a lot of males went into nursing. So I was a double minority. I was Asian and male. And so I got in pretty easily to the nursing school. And so I went to the University of Illinois for my nursing school. And then I worked med surg for 5 years. During that time, I went to school for my nurse practitioner degree. And then when I became a nurse practitioner, I was working in family medicine for about 5 years. And then now I'm in orthopedics for the last 5 years. So I've been a nurse practitioner for like 10 years now, and in healthcare for maybe 15, 16 years, something like that.
Did you always know you wanted to do nurse practitioner, or was it kind of just the path of progression once you became a nurse?
Yeah, I think it was a path of progression. Being in a hospital setting, I think it's amazing because you get really intimate experiences with patients and you get to know them in a very personal level, but it is such a environment where you burn out very quickly and you deal with administration that you never see eye to eye with, like upper leadership. So hospital politics is just something that you should experience, but it's hard to stay in it long term, just because my passion is like primary prevention, helping people to actually get better. And so I didn't really like that mentality of these patients are going to keep coming back into the hospital with exacerbations or with other issues, and they're not actually getting better. We're just trying to mask the symptoms and get them better for them to get sick again. And so that mentality just kind of burned me out. And so I wanted to make a difference in a different way.
Got all that from A Walk to Remember, huh?
And Meet the Parents. Ben Stiller being one of the first male nurses. So
yeah.
Oh man, I didn't see that movie till after I became a nurse, but it still hit home pretty well.
I think I like what you're saying about the prevent. Well, earlier what we were talking to somebody and they said what, like, an ounce of prevention is, how do you say it? Like worth a pound of cure or something. But I think that's the saying. But anyways, the whole point is, the prevention piece of it. So now in what you're doing as a nurse practitioner, do you feel like you're getting that option to kind of like work with these people and prevent things prior to them becoming an issue?
Yeah, I think there's more avenues for that. I think the U.S. healthcare system in general, like, there's not many opportunities because you see your patients for like 15 minutes max, and you know they kind of overload your schedule. So it's not the best avenue to do it, but I definitely have more opportunities to do a lot more education and to be able to follow up with my patients to see gradually over time how they're doing. It's not like the perfect system, but it's a lot easier to do as a nurse practitioner rather than as a nurse with the acute care setting.
Yeah, they're just so overwhelmed in the hospital that it's like you don't have the opportunity. Do you believe that now with Robert Kennedy, he will make America healthy again?
Yeah, I think it's very controversial. There's a lot of things that I do believe in that he's trying to do with like the processed foods, all the food additives, and even you look at him and you look at his life, and he emulates exactly what we're supposed to be doing when it comes to health. I think they showed a comparison between him and I forgot who the other person was before him, but it just shows
I
like,
saw that one.
yeah, it's like our leadership when it comes to health, if they're not living it out themselves, then how can we actually look at that and be like, oh, I want to emulate that. I want to be like that. And so I think in that way, just because he's actually lived it out, there's much respect for him. And again, I don't think he's like ultimately like anti-vaccine, but I think he's like, no, we need to be more careful. We need to do more research. And I totally agree with that, because even in my ortho practice, I've seen people come in with really bad adverse effects from the COVID vaccine. And so I'm just like, yeah, I think there is a lot of money that's into pharmaceuticals, big pharma, and that needs to be addressed. And we got to make sure that we're looking at the health and the safety of the people first before profit.
Yeah, I know one of our earlier guests. He was like, "There's no place better in the world to go if you have an acute issue, but America in general is not great at any sort of prevention. So hopefully that we kind of get back to more of the prevention rather than just treating, because not getting rid of the underlying problem. So it's always going to come back."
Back to Robert Kennedy. I mean, I think, like you said, it's like, I don't necessarily think he's anti-vaccine. I mean, he's obviously spoken out against them, but it's just like, even like the FDA stuff, it's like, hey, I don't want former FDA members to be serving on boards at like Pfizer and stuff like that. So I think as that stuff changes, regardless of how you feel politically, like there's obviously some stuff going on behind the scenes, and it'll be interesting to see how that changes. So but I'm all with you though. Like I think like the prevention is so huge, and in the ER, I think my background's ER nursing, and it's like it is tough to see like the same people, and maybe it's not the exact same person, but the same kind of people just kind of coming in again and again, and you feel like you have no way to like help them. So I can resonate with that, even though I didn't get the same thing from Walk to Remember. Like I can definitely, I can definitely resonate with that.
I feel like we're going to keep coming back to that.
No, that's it. I had my last one. It's just like such a random thing. Like,
I know it's a classic movie though, right? Great soundtrack too.
Hey,
I agree to
Switchfoot.
Oh,
Switchfoot, right? Yeah. All right. Yeah. Now you're doing the ortho as a nurse practitioner. Are you also teaching at the university?
Yeah, so I used to teach like every semester, but now I just do the fall semester. I do like a health assessment class, so I just teach how to do like a head to toe assessment for the first year nursing students.
Oh, nice. So the ones that are most scared, you can get in their heads.
Yeah, exactly. They're the most stressed and the most overwhelmed, and we try to make it a very chill vibe and make it where like, yeah, you're gonna make a lot of mistakes, but this is the kind of class where if you're stressed out, you can release some of your stress because you're all gonna do well as long as you show up. So I try to keep it like that kind of atmosphere.
I'm sure that's a nice change for the nursing students because everything else is just like, ah. So from there, it sounds like you do some investment, like stock investing and that kind of stuff. How'd you get into that? Was that more your business background?
Yeah, I think I got more interested in it kind of around the time you probably know like the Robinhood app, like when it first came out, and my younger brother was that one who actually introduced it to me and was like, you can actually like invest, like you don't need someone to invest it for you. You can do it yourself with this app. And so I remember like putting like $1,000 in, and I lost it like within a week. And I was like, oh my gosh, I can't do this. But I got really interested in it, and I started doing my own research, and that's where I kind of got into like Twitter, and I started following all these like financial gurus and all that. And then when I learned that there are just so many different strategies that you can do to invest, and you can find like what is your risk tolerance, that's when it became more like personal for me. And I think I always had that mindset of like, I want to make my $1,000 back. And so I'm going to do whatever it takes to figure it out, especially because even as I did my own research, I found so many people who have gone to financial freedom from going from the 9-to-5 job and just being able to really get into investing in the right way. And now they're not even working their 9-to-5 job. And so I think that was kind of like my mentality of just being able to get out of that rat race and to be able to support my family in a different way, where I'm going to be able to spend a lot more time with them. I have a lot more time for myself. But I mean, don't get me wrong. I love my health profession. I love what I do. But now being able to do that part-time and being able to focus on kind of like the investing side, it's been good.
So did you make your $1,000 back?
Yes, it took a while though. I mean, I kept going downhill for a while, but
Yeah.
perseverance, right?
Yeah. So when you were talking about your IC options, which we'll get into a little later, but you were mentioning that like doing like investing where it's not gambling, and that's kind of always been my thing. Is like I very much feel like investing is somewhat gambling, investing in stocks, anyways, just because I don't understand it. So as you were getting into it, I guess what did you do to make it so that it's not so much of a gamble?
Yeah, I think in the beginning, I would join these Discord groups and like these paid groups, and they would just do like straight up what's called like a buying a naked option, right? Like a naked call or naked put. And so essentially with that, you're going against time. And so usually when you buy options, kind of like gambling, the house always wins. Like you're going to win here and there, but majority of time, over time, you're going to lose because you just can't beat time. Like when you're going against time, these contracts decay really quickly. And so I did figure that out fast. And what I learned was becoming a premium seller. So like an option seller is actually the most consistent way to make gains. And even if you look at Warren Buffett, one of his strategies is when he's trying to get into a stock long term, a lot of times he won't buy the share of that stock at that price, but he'll actually sell a put much lower. So like say Apple, if it was like $100, he'll sell a put for like $80 several months down the road. And then so if Apple does correct, then he would get assigned the Apple shares at a lot cheaper price. Plus you get premium on top of that. And so that strategy just helps you to get into stocks at a much cheaper level. Plus, if you don't get assigned, say the stock goes up without you, you're still getting money from that premium that you sold. So it's almost like a win-win situation. Now, the downfall of that is you can't just sell puts on like crappy names, right? Like stocks that are going to go bankrupt or you're just going to lose money. But if you can get these blue chip stocks and you're just selling puts whenever they do have a correction, then there's a really good chance that you're going to make money off of it because you're going to get shares at a much cheaper price and you're getting the money.
So can you dumb that down a little bit more? So maybe I'll just leave it at that. Can you dumb that down a little bit more? Because I don't know if I completely follow. You can just buy a stock at less than what it's worth, and if it goes down to that price, then you get them?
Yeah, so to dumb it down even more, like if you think of one contract, so if you buy one call or if you buy one put, that equals 100 shares of a stock, right? So if I buy one call of Apple, technically if it gets assigned to me, I'm receiving 100 shares of that stock. So when you're selling a put, what you are legally binded to is, say I sold an Apple 85 put, and by my expiration day, if Apple is above $85, whatever premium that I sold it for, so say like the 85 put was like 120 bucks, I would receive 120 bucks of premium because that contract went worthless because Apple stayed above 85. But say Apple had a huge correction and went down to like $80, then those 100 shares would be sent to me at a price of $85 per share, even though it's at 80. So I'm losing money initially as I get those shares because it's at 80, but I've also gained that premium from selling. So now I can patiently wait for Apple to either break even and then sell it, and then sell another put on a different stock or on the same stock. Or you can do what's called the wheel strategy, where once I get these shares assigned to me, I can sell a call against my 100 shares and then collect premium that way. Essentially what option selling is, you're selling premium to these option gamblers who are trying to buy these options. And again, I guess when you look at what's the downside of it, the downside is if you sell a put on a bad name and it keeps going down and you get assigned, then just like buying a stock, you're losing money.
Can you go even a little dumber and just define what a call and a put is for the very basic investors?
Yeah. So if you look at the options market, basically a call or a put is an option contract that you're making. So a call is making a bullish trade on the market, and a put is a bearish trade on the market. So if I'm bullish on Apple, or if I think Apple's going to go up and I want like a high risk, high reward kind of trade, then I would buy a call on Apple, which is a contract with a premium price. And as long as Apple goes up and it goes up in a certain amount of time, you get a certain percentage. Like you can get like in a matter of like minutes, you can be up like 50% gains depending on what your expiration is. But again, the downfall of that is if you buy a call and Apple starts going down, those contracts decay really fast. And so you start losing money fast. And so the opposite is a put is if you're bearish on the market or bearish on a certain stock, you buy a put on that certain stock. And as long as the stock goes down, the more it goes down, the more money that you make. So again, it's complicated. I think when it comes to like options 101, it's just, yeah, I think you can do like a whole 2-hour intro on it.
Yeah, it's a whole new world. I know. I mean, as the gambler type investor or stock trader that I was back in 2020 when Doge was doing good, I bought a bunch of it, and of course, well, I mean, actually, I think it's doing okay right now. But no, I like to buy high, sell low. But no, that's a great explanation. I feel like
called?
I feel like I understand a little better now.
It's called amateur.
It's called stay in the hospital. Don't quit your job.
That's where I would be. Yeah, but it's just I guess similar to real estate, there's all different kinds of strategies that you can do within stock trading. So with the options, why was it that you chose that over something else?
Like besides like any other strategy that you can do?
Yeah, I hear about.
I think there's a lot of different avenues, like your 401k. What is the one for kids? The 50, something like that, right?
529 or something.
Yeah, 529. Yeah. Like your Roth, all that. That's kind of like passive, right? Where month by month you're putting money in, and over time it's building. This was just another avenue where I could be a little more aggressive, and I'm like complete in control of it. And so I wanted more of a method where I could kind of gain this skill of knowing like when I should sell a certain stock, when I should sell a certain like put option, when I should try collect premium. So I think it was more of like just the challenge and the art of learning how to do that consistently that got me really into it. Because the thing is, you put the hours in, and once you're able to figure it out, then, just like real estate, you can consistently make money. And it's really stress-free if you know what you're doing over time. And so it was just more of a way to be more hands-on with it instead of like passively doing it.
And then what's a time commitment look like for like on a daily or on a weekly basis for what you're having to do to keep up with all these different options that you're
investing? So I work part-time at work. I'm usually market here opens up at 8:30. So I'm usually checking the market, working the market with my Discord from 8:30 to about like 11. And that's usually when you get the most action anyway. After 11 o'clock, that tends to be when the market kind of goes sideways and the big plays have stopped. So 8:30 to 11 is when I'm really active. And then obviously when I get home, a lot of my time is spent on, looking for good setups, looking at what's called the options flow. So there's different programs where you can see what big money is buying, like whether it's on the call side or the put side. So like bearish bets, bullish bets, and trying to connect that with the different charts of these different stocks. So it's a lot of just research. And again, if it's not something that you're interested in learning, then it can be overwhelming. But I think if you have like a select few that you normally trade, like when you should get in and when you should get out ultimately.
Now, are you kind of buying like hundreds or thousands of different companies, I guess, or do you kind of have your main few that you just do options on based on if you think they're going up or down?
Yeah. So, in my passive accounts, it's all like ETFs, right? Very safe.
Okay.
In my aggressive account, it's more, like 3 to 5 on your watch list. and then you can rotate names weekly. But yeah, it's putting more money into like one or two names and then watching it like carefully and then knowing like when you had to stop out, when you want to start trimming. So it's more like everything is like, I guess if you think of it in like a medical perspective, like it's like being in the ICU or ER, like acute, like you are really watching and monitoring very carefully, right? So, and I only have time really to do that from like 8:30 to 11. And then my partner watches it because he does it full time. He watches it from like 11 to close.
That sounds a lot more active than even, well, I mean, the property management side of things for what we're doing is pretty active, but just in general, I mean, that's like every day you got to be on that.
Yeah, and, the nice thing is too, it's just a click of a button, and then you're either rich or poor. So I mean, it's,
that's the whole problem for me. It's like it's just too
yeah.
much. It's I don't know.
But I think it gets to a point though where you're like you've lost so much, you've won so much, where you become numb to like the profit and losses, and then it just comes to a point where you just focus on like your strategy ultimately, and then that is what gets you consistent over time.
So what would you say your average return on let's break down the aggressive portfolio and the safe portfolio. What would you say your average returns are? Are they beating the S&P 500? I mean, I would assume so. Otherwise, it wouldn't make sense to put that much time into it.
Yeah. So,
but what do you usually see?
I think what they say the average is it goes all the way up to like 10, 11%, something like that, right? Yearly for like your passive. Like year to year, how much you can make, it's like, I don't know, 7 to 12% wide range. So with the aggressive, like on a good year, I could be at 100, 150% above. On a bad year, I could be break even, but then obviously the good years make up for that. On average, I'd say at least 30%. And so again, it's more work. And then obviously I have less money in the aggressive compared to my other accounts, but it's really good side gig. When it comes to side gigs in general, if you can master this is one of the best side gigs. Like if it is almost equal to what you're making as your profession. And so that's where, that's kind of what we push in the Discord.
And what about your safe ones? Are they, did you say 7 to 12%? Is that what you said
Yeah,
for your safe portfolio?
depending on what the market's doing. But then with the aggressive side, you can play on the short or the long side. So it's just kind of riding the wave, whatever direction.
Well, this is just kind of off the topic of stocks and all that, but you mentioned, replacing your income. I'm coming from Los Angeles. I'm up in Northern California now, but originally from Los Angeles. And like nurse practitioners in the Los Angeles area didn't necessarily make tremendously more than like regular floor nurses at some of the hospitals. And especially as you get into Northern California, floor nurses or just like regular nurses are making as much as NPs. So in the Illinois market, what's that like for you? Was there a pretty big pay raise when you went from RN to FNP?
Yeah, I would say Illinois, especially where I live, cost of living is really cheap, especially compared to California. So I think it really depends on specialty too. Like when I was family medicine, I really didn't see that significant of an increase in my income compared to being a registered nurse. But then as I switched to a specialty, I think it was a little bit more. But I think for me, it was just more worth it because my quality of life was not as bad when I was a nurse. I think quality of life is so much better when you know exactly when you're leaving the clinic. It's the same thing over and over, less stress. And so that alone made it worth it for me. But yeah, I think like on average in Illinois, where I live, I think the average salary is about like 110 all the way to like 140 maybe, which in Illinois, that's very easy to live on compared to Cali, where that's probably like you're just making it daily.
Just barely.
Yeah, you could barely afford an apartment on that here.
Yeah, but, which is insane. Yeah. So yeah.
No, I mean it's not that bad, but it is interesting because growing up my whole life, I always thought like if I can just hit 6 figures, I'll be set, and it's like that is no longer the case. It's like
which is crazy. That was the American dream. Get to 6 figures and you made it. And now it's like, oh, how am I going to get by month? So
Yeah.
it's crazy how inflation can do that.
So you're clearly passionate about, the investing side of things. And then how did that turn into IC Options, your company?
Once we start, like me and my buddy of mine, once we start finding success, we're like, how can we kind of give it back, pay it forward, and maybe help some people not make the same mistakes that we've done. And that's where we started posting on Twitter here and there. And I think the first profile picture was of my wife giving me a haircut for the first time because I didn't want to waste money on a haircut. And it was like the worst haircut of my life. And so the joke was something like, I get bad haircuts, but I give like great trades or something like that. And so just talking about how like my focus is not on myself, on helping others trade. And I don't know, I caught on. I would just post a free trade here and there, and then I would give an update on that trade as it works. And people started seeing the consistency of the wins, and then they would start following. And then we built up a pretty significant following. So we're at like, I don't know, 14,000 followers on Twitter. But most of that following was like the first year we started. And so when we saw that we had a massive group, and this was again during COVID time when all these paid Discords started coming out. So that's kind of like the trend. So we're like, okay, if other people are doing it and we give out a lot more free info than they do, why don't we just try it and see what happens? And then so when we announced that we're going to start a paid Discord, we just got so many emails of interest from it, and then that's kind of how it started.
Yeah. And what does that look like today?
Yeah, so I will, I'll say it's definitely trending down. We've had it where we started at the highs and then we've come to the lows, and now we're kind of at like a happy medium. But I think we're all at the point where because it's three of us, so we have like one administration guy and then two traders, me and my partner. And I think we just come to a point where the people who have stayed, like our core group, we're just really out there to help them. And so it's more close knit group now compared to what it was, because we had to learn on the fly how to run a business. And so there was a lot of trial and error, a lot of people unsatisfied because we were just not good with managing a business. So I think going through the ups and downs of that was very humbling, and we learned a lot. And now where we're at, it's a nice number where we feel like we can faithfully do it and give a good experience to these people.
So are these like weekly calls, or is it just kind of like a running chat group?
Yeah, so we kind of give everything. So there's like what's called futures trading, which is like trading overnight. We have a person that we brought on for free that does like the overnight trading, which is a little more aggressive. But then we have like a long-term stock holding where like if we think there's a stock to hold for like a year or several years, we have that stock list for those who are more passive. And then we have, again, the premium selling where you sell premium for a much more conservative trade. And then we have more of the aggressive trades too, where you buy a straight call or put based off of what the options flow is showing or the sentiment of the market. So we kind of have a little bit of everything.
I think I said already. So I've been following you on Instagram primarily. And I noticed you put a lot of nursing humor, but then I see a lot of your family, and you kind of mix it all together. How do you find time to maintain this platform while you're still a nurse practitioner? Sounds like you're pretty busy with your business, but you also look like you're a pretty involved in your family. So how do you maintain all of that?
Yeah. So I just don't ever spend time with my family. No, just yeah. I think at the end of the day, it comes down to how do you manage your time, right? I think a lot of my motivation is I don't ever want to like waste the precious time I have. So like I'm up early in the morning. I have a schedule of like what I want to do, and this comes to a point of like when it comes to side hustles, the mindset is if you want to ultimately get rid of your 9 to 5 job, you have to do these extra things to get to where you want. And so even through my Instagram platform, it's led to many different side hustles too, like different companies reaching out and being able to do collaborations with them and even longer term collaborations. The nursing stuff, I think that I post is just, I think, pains that I've gone through or I see other people go through, and it's relatable. And so that's easy stuff. And then like when I incorporate my family, like if you notice, I actually have not incorporated my family as of late because they don't like being in it. So I don't force them to do it anymore. But yeah, I think just life is all about consistency. Like if you want to see any kind of positive in life, it's just like you gotta daily show up. And again, I don't think I have the highest quality content on Instagram, but being able to consistently show up daily has slowly shown growth in my account. And I think it's the same thing with trading. I think it's the same thing with work. It's just if you're willing to show up consistently and faithfully do your part, I think you will reap the benefits ultimately.
Yeah. Are you posting daily still?
On Instagram?
Yeah.
Yeah, I try, and then I think I go through seasons too where I'm like, oh, this is so dumb. Like I'm 36 years old. Like why am I doing this stuff? But again, I see it as like it's opportunity because it's exposure, and then you don't know who's going to be watching and what kind of opportunity can arise from that. And so again, I've met a lot of different people through collaborations just simply because I post daily. And even though I'm like, okay, this is so dumb, I look so stupid in this, it's like it works because I get emails all the time of people who want to work, and then that adds additional side income ultimately. And then obviously, Instagram pays you too. Like after a certain amount of followers, you get a certain amount for each reel that's watched. So that's also just passive income ultimately.
That must be is that a newer thing with Instagram? Because I know YouTube is doing that, but is that newer?
Yeah, it was there for a couple years. Then they took it away, like that creator fund, and then they brought it back. I want to say like a year ago. So it's like every, I think like 2 weeks, you had this time window where you rack up as many like watch time as you can, and depending on how much watch time there is, you get a certain percentage of it. But honestly, it's not much. Like you cannot make a living off of it. Even like I've had videos hit, over several million views, and I think that got me like $50. So it's really not much. Yeah. So you're making more from the exposure and the sponsorship opportunities that you get from that.
Okay. What type of companies are finding you through socials and actually wanting to collaborate with you?
Yeah, so I think one big one is one supplement company that I actually personally take their supplements, so it was a good mutual agreement. But I do like a separate like TikTok for them, and so I had to post like a video here and there, and then they pay me monthly for that. So that's like a monthly income just from one collaborator. And a lot of these collaborations that I get per video, when we agree, it can range from like anywhere from $500 to up to a couple thousand just for one video posting. And oftentimes I don't even have to post it on my own social media page. And so there are definitely avenues where people are willing to pay you just for like a promoted ad or like just for a video showing your face. So several of those, I would say in a given year, like just from Instagram alone, I can make, let's say monthly, at least a couple thousand just from sponsorships. So that's why I keep doing it. I like it because again, I meet a lot of great people. But again, it's a great side hustle. But I will say, if I were to do it all over again, I would probably focus on YouTube. I think YouTube is where the money really is at. But now when I try to transition to YouTube, it is just so hard to make long form content. Like I get so bored trying to edit all that. I just cannot do it. So that's why I just stick with like TikTok and Instagram.
So from the four income streams, it sounds like you have the IC options, you have your stock trading, and then you have your work and Instagram. Have the other three fully replaced your nurse practitioner income, where you could just walk away from that if you wanted to?
Yeah, definitely. And I feel like I never will, just because I feel like this is my calling in life. Like if I were just to do trading full time, just sitting in a room in front of the computer and looking at like green bars and red bars, I think I would just hate my life. So I love just having the balance that I have. Like, so being able to see the market for a couple hours, that's like good enough for me. And then, I can check throughout the day as well. But being able to do what I'm passionate about, like helping people, taking care of people's lives and helping them to get better, I think that gives me more a sense of purpose, and then also giving it back by teaching, and then content creating, user generated content also is just something that naturally I've grown to enjoy. And so if any of these streams, if I ended up not liking it, I would easily just stop doing it. But these are all things that I like to do, and so I try to incorporate it.
When you're getting these first year nursing students, are a lot of them familiar with you from social media?
Yeah, it's kind of embarrassing because, they'll be like, oh my gosh, I saw like one of your videos, or, they'll like friend me, and I'm like, oh man, it is embarrassing. Even like patients, they'll be like, wait, are you on social media? And, there are times it's just so awkward for me. So I'm like, no, I don't know what you're talking about. But yeah, so I mean, I'll get like random people, because Champaign is such a small city too. So I'll just get random people like stop me at a restaurant. They're like, dude, I know who you are. And I'm like, wow, that's it's cool, but it's also embarrassing. But yeah, I've noticed that because some of my videos have blown up, that some people do recognize me. But again, I think majority of people don't. I'm just a very average guy, and so majority of the time people don't even know who I am.
Does your wife make fun of you when you get recognized in public?
She's just so embarrassed. She's like, oh my gosh, I don't know you. But yeah, even when she watches my videos, she's like, this is so bad, and it's so it's so
this
cringe.
Is not the man I married.
So she's like, oh, who are you? So I had to deal with all that. So again, a lot of Instagram is just dying to yourself and just being like, I'm just going to post this. I don't care who judges. I don't care what people say. It's fine.
I think it's even harder for like healthcare professionals to do like really, really dumb stuff online, because then we have to go to the hospital and be extremely professional. So I like to do really dumb stuff, and I've started putting more and more dumb stuff online. But at first I was like, I don't know if I want to do that because I'm supposed to be such a professional in the hospital.
Yeah.
Now I don't care anymore.
I think there's a fine line too, right? Because if you post something controversial, there are people who will go out of their way to like try to contact your HR, or they'll like try to get you in trouble. And so I learned like I have to be very careful with the topic that I joke around about. And yeah, even like one of my old workplaces, because I was filming there, one of my videos went viral and people recognized it was the workplace, right? And so even that, HR had to talk to me. So I'm like, oh my gosh, like it's something you just always have to be careful about. And even if it's like a joke, like the internet, everyone gets offended these days, right? And so look, if you look at these Instagram comments on viral videos, there's just so much hate for no reason. And so a lot of Instagram, and if you want to actually do it, you just have to have thick skin and realize there are going to be a lot of haters, a lot of people complaining, and a lot of people saying bad comments for no reason except just to hate, right? And so you really have to just be able to look past that and be like, it doesn't matter. Like, again, I'm the one who's walking to the bank, making money out of this. And so, I mean, there are always going to be haters and jealous people out there.
Well, without the haters, you wouldn't ever get any viral content, right?
Exactly. So, it's the ones that go viral that are the most controversial, which is sad.
Yeah. So thank you for your extra 100 views for your negative comment.
Exactly.
So I got to ask, so we interviewed somebody recently who was talking about stocks, and then I was actually talking to one of the nurses I work with who had listened to it, and she goes, I want her to tell me like which stock specifically she was investing in. So maybe not all of them, but like what are some of your favorite stocks, I guess?
Yeah. So one really interesting one, the ticker is SMCI, or what's called small, what does it stand for? Small Micro Technology Inc. I think. Let me check real fast. But basically, Super Micro Computer Inc. Okay, SMCI. So this is a stock that it did a stock split. So it used to be in the 1,000 level, but then they recently got in trouble with their auditing firm, which was Ernst & Young, because there were issues with just how they were recording their numbers for their earnings. And so because of that big fear that this stock might be delisted, the stock dropped from, after the split, it was around like $120. It dropped all the way to like $18. And so this was one where I saw a huge opportunity because it was still a company making great revenues. It was still a reputable company that was working with a big company like NVIDIA. So it works with like AI and the chips. And so this is one that I still believe has a lot of upside potential, because when it dropped, I'd say in the last 6 months, around 80%. But they just recently got a new auditor. They're filing a new, what's called a 10K. And so this is one that can easily triple within a year or two. So that's one that I really like. That's more higher risk because the NASDAQ is now evaluating if their compliance report and if their auditor is sound. And so as long as everything goes through, this is one that has a lot more upside, especially in a time where the stock market is at all-time highs, right? I think a lot of the Chinese stocks are stocks that are hated because they've gone down so much over the last couple of years. These are stocks like Baba, JD, Futu. So these are the Chinese stocks in general that are like e-commerce are great buys right now. I think there's a lot of fear when Trump became elected. These Chinese stocks are selling off because everyone's concerned about tariffs. But these are reputable companies that can probably get you a lot more upside than blue chip stocks that are at all-time highs. So I just look for stuff that is not overvalued already. Like crypto related stocks have had a huge boom. Now I believe a lot of those will have to rest. And then you're going to see a rotation into a lot of growth names. So like Celsius is one. If you look around, everyone is drinking Celsius. Even at my work, all my coworkers drink it. I personally hate it, but the stock is really cheap now. So there are a lot of good growth stocks out there that should do well going into the new year.
Okay. And for reference, we're recording on November 19th. So whenever you hear this, do your own research based on that. 2024.
Yeah. Do you so I'm here in California, so one of our senators famously has done really well in stocks.
Is Nancy?
Yeah.
Good old Nance.
Good old Nance. So do you follow any of these politicians? I heard you can just like follow their trades.
So I mean on Twitter there's it's not her, but it's like Nancy Pelosi's trades. And there's like thousands and thousands of people who follow because, again, it's all insider trading. Ultimately, how she has not been put to jail for this, I have no idea. But yeah, so I think we pay real close attention to insider buying, like who's buying a huge buttload of stocks. And Nancy, during that whole NVIDIA run, was buying so much of NVIDIA. And so it was just plain obvious that, she got the inside scoop. But again, what can you do?
Well, I think Gavin Newsom is her nephew, I think, and he must be following her trades because he just bought a $9 million house in Marin County, just to over the way a little bit. So
yeah,
that governor's salary, that's pretty wild to see what they can get away with. But I mean, I think everyone's doing it.
Goals.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Just kidding.
I need to get into politics so I can get these insider trading tips.
It's corrupt, and here we are, like we had to guess, and we get taxed like crazy for any kind of capital gains, and yeah, they just want the rich to get richer and the poor to get poorer, and so it's kind of just doing what you can to get out of that rat race.
So yeah, we'll move on to the final five. So we ask the same 5 questions to every guest. So the first question is, if I can do it from memory, actually, I don't have the little sheet pulled up again. Where do you go when you need to educate yourself? Is there a resource that you found to be really good?
I've actually recently started loving ChatGPT. I think it is just such great information, and it's just so easy to use. And it really about anything, even when it comes to medical stuff. Like I'll just say, like if I'm not getting it, I'll just say, really dumb it down for me. So even like when it came to you guys asking about like options, dumb it down. Like you go ChatGPT and you dumb it down, they will dumb it down so easily. And then this is sad to admit, but even when it comes to like when I do letter of references and all that, Like, yeah, it's all ChatGPT generated now, just because and again, I make it more personal, but just the framework of everything it makes it so easy for you nowadays. And I'm all about like, how do I make the most out of my time? And so I found that ChatGPT, even like when it comes to a lot of my collaboration scripts, I'll come up with it through ChatGPT. Or like if I want to come up with something for like Instagram that I need ideas, I'll just like give me ideas on ChatGPT, like what medical, like what are things that people are concerned about, or what are some popular health topics, and then it'll just give me a whole bunch of things. So that's like my greatest resource right now.
All right. And I heard that they're actually going to be going public soon. I don't know if that's rumor or if that's real, but I know they're a nonprofit converting into something else, converting into maybe a publicly traded entity at some point.
Oh,
So
yeah, probably.
that would make sense.
So the second question is, what advice would you give yourself as a new grad?
Like a nursing new grad.
Yeah.
So I think oftentimes people go into nursing school, a lot of them have excelled academically. And so one advice I always say is it really is not about your grades. Like as someone who's been on the board for hiring new grads and new nurses, like we never look at someone's GPA. Like we could care less how you do in nursing school. And all we really care about is, are you compassionate? Are you a team player? Are you willing to um, just do your best for the hospital and for your patients? Like if we can get that vibe from you, then we would love to have you. And so ultimately, a lot of these nursing students, they're so stressed about like, oh, I'm doing so bad on this test, I'm doing so bad in this class. But I always say, just pass. Really, that's ultimately all about passing. And like, even if you don't retain a lot of these things, a lot of what you'll learn is from when you're trained or when you're onboarded at the hospital. Like a lot of your nursing skills come from hands-on training. And even when it came to clinicals as nursing students, we barely got anything done because nurses didn't want us to do anything as student nurses. And so yeah, that'd be my biggest advice. Just pass. Don't stress out about getting a 4.0 GPA. Just pass and just make sure that you are learning how to be a team player and compassionate with your patients.
I tell everybody I definitely learned more in my first 3 months as a nurse than I did in 3 years of nursing school. Like
Yeah,
no doubt.
absolutely.
All right. Third question is what are you excited about in the next 12 months?
One thing when it comes to content creating, there's a statistic out there that like the content creator fund is actually supposed to go all the way up to, I'm butchering this, but it's like the most it's ever gone. Like how much YouTube actually pays its creators is insane, and how much Meta is starting to pay its creators is insane. And so what they're saying is it's only the beginning for content creators. And so one thing that I am excited about is just it's not too late to actually join into this. I think one thing that I try to push for people, especially when it comes to side hustles, is if you have something that you're passionate about, or if you have a specific niche that you feel like you're an expert in, there is always more room for you as a content creator. And the opportunities are endless if you're willing to be vulnerable and to show up daily. Like some of that big pot of money can be yours. And so I think that's one thing definitely to be excited about, because you really didn't have those opportunities before the internet. Like you really just have to hit record and you can maybe even replace your 9 to 5 job just from all the different opportunities that you get. And so really when people complain about like not having money or not having opportunities, it's just, I really just want to be able to say like, no, that's just being lazy. Like to be straight up, like you're being lazy because the opportunities now are endless. You just have to be able to show up and um, be able to take risks. And I think content creating is one of the ways.
Just be willing to be ridiculed by your wife and
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, and that's just it. I don't know how long you've been posting. I've only been actually posting on social media for a year and a half or so. And it took me a good 3 months before I was finally just like, okay, I don't even care anymore. I'm just putting this up. Like it took a solid 3 months of me not wanting to record, not wanting to upload, not wanting to do any of this because I don't want my friends seeing me be all vulnerable and stupid. How long did it take you to kind of get over that little speed bump or whatever?
Yeah, I'd say it's a good several months, because again, like a lot of my close friends would be like, wow, you're special, or
Yeah.
you're very cheesy. And again, I think ultimately too, I've had like friends unfollow me too, and so like there's a lot of pains I think with it, but then I think as you stick around, you realize, man, again, it's worth it. Like especially if you have a niche that you're really passionate about, then it doesn't even seem like work. And so for all the negative comments I get, all the positive comments surely make up for it. So I'll have a lot of people DM me, and they just be very thankful for like even the health content that I give out. And a lot of my passion is just to be able to give unbiased health content that can help empower people to take care of their health. And so I've had people say, that was just extremely helpful. Like I've changed many different ways in how I live. And so just even being able to hear comments like that is what really makes it worth it to me. So yeah, it's the internet, so you're going to be ridiculed no matter what. And so it's just all about knowing like it doesn't matter what people think. At the end of the day, if you're successful because of it, then who cares?
Yeah, perfect example of that is Jake Paul, I guess, because
Yeah.
people can't stand that guy.
Oh, I
But
know, but he's laughing to the bank, right? Like, I
Yeah.
mean, like he knows how to make money off of that kind of stuff, and so
Yeah.
he's very wise.
Yeah. And I don't necessarily want to be Jake Paul. I definitely don't want to be Jake Paul. But
I
it's a good
$40
example of
million
what's possible.
for one fake fight.
I know. It's
So the fourth question is, how do you define success?
yeah, I think it's a great question. I think it's so like personalized, where I think in America everyone thinks success is like having a lot of money, but I think success is being able to do what you want to do with your life. So whether that's I want to work or I want to spend time with my family, like being able to say I have these desires and I'm going to do it because I'm able to do it. I think that's success to me, because there are a lot of people who are crazy rich, financially well off, and they're not happy. And ultimately, I don't see that as success. I see that more as they're chained to almost like this addiction or this idol, and it's not really bringing them happiness in life. But I think success is when you're able to find something that you're really passionate about and you're actually doing it, and that makes you happy. And so I think ultimately it comes to, are you happy or not? And that's what brings true success, whether you're rich or poor. It's just, are you really happy?
Yeah. I know you mentioned being having a big strong faith background. Do you think that has influenced your just overall life choices, business dealings, and then ultimately how you define success?
Yeah, ultimately I think at the end of the day too, like why I could care less what people think, and like even all my different actions that I do, is because I think of it as like, as long as I'm faithfully doing what I feel like I'm called to do, like the only person or the only judgment that I care about is God himself. So if I feel like I am faithfully doing everything to honor and please God, then I'm going to be okay. Even if the world hates me for it, I'm completely satisfied because I know between me and God, he's satisfied with it. And so, yeah, faith, I think, plays a huge factor. I think one thing that has helped me to persevere through the ups and downs of owning a business, of social media, of work, and all that is just because I believe I have a greater calling, rather than like being short sighted and being like, oh, it's for the money or it's for temporary success. But no, I think I'm really trying to be the salt and light, and trying to be an avenue where people look at me and they see hope, and people look at me and they can connect with me, and they know I genuinely do care, and I do want to help people. And so I think with all of that, yeah, faith is the foundation of everything for me. And so again, even if I lost everything, I think I would still feel successful because I'm in Christ. So that's where I feel the greatest purpose.
Yeah, and me and Colin were both also very similar with our thought process and on everything. We're very faith based, and thanks
I
for
think
sharing that.
that's what keeps you from going down that Jake Paul route and going more like I want to do big things, I want to make an influence, but like in a more I don't know.
in
Just-
a positive manner, not just for
yeah,
ourselves.
they're in a positive manner. Yeah.
All right. So our fifth question is, what's the biggest financial mistake that you've made, and what can we learn from it?
Yeah, I think the stock market.
Yeah.
No, yeah, I think it's all about, before you get into anything, just being able to research and know what you're getting into before you get into anything too quickly. So again, for me, that was just trying to jump into the market and trying to make money as quickly as possible. And that's where I lost it all, right? And so I think it's this mentality of slow down. It's not a race. It's just figuring it out, taking the necessary precautions, and learning foundationally how to do things to get you on the right path. And I think anyone who's trying to go the fast track oftentimes gets screwed the most, right? Because you're taking too much risk and you don't know what you're doing. And so it's easy to fall. And so, yeah, I think the biggest thing is just taking a step back and learning from people who have gone through that journey, or getting a mentor and figuring out how to do it the right way.
And there's no easy way to make money. There's no fast way to make money.
Exactly. And I think the faster
basis.
you try, I think the harder it actually gets. I think it has to come to a point where you're like, yeah, I'm in no rush. And oftentimes it's when you have that kind of mentality where you're like, I'm in no rush, I'm not in that urgent of a need, that it naturally kind of flows. Like the opportunities just kind of come there. And then like you're able to mentally even think through it a lot more clear than rather compared to when you're like super urgent about it. Then you're just working by emotion. And I think that's where you make a lot of mistakes.
Well, it's been great. Thanks for coming on. If people want to find you and reach out, where's the best place for people to find you?
Yeah, you can come to Champaign and visit me, a small city. Again, on social media, you can find me on the John Hong Kim. Again, such a cheesy name, but the John Hong Kim on Instagram. I'm on TikTok, on YouTube, but I haven't posted a long video in a long time, so don't check out my YouTube. Just check out my Instagram. But yeah, you can find me anywhere there.
Awesome. Well, thanks for joining us.